Hey guys, welcome to the Blue Mug Chat. Today's topic of conversation is about child protection, and we are specifically focusing on cybercrime and bullying because it's one of the most serious issues that a lot of kids out there are actually facing. And as parents, no matter how much we try, as parents, we would like to protect them as much as we would like, but we cannot be with them at every step of the way. And also, sometimes we are not aware of what the law is. We are not aware of what the responsibility is. We are not aware of what our responsibilities towards the law itself is. And so we fail to educate them, to make them aware, to make them know where the downfall is. So it's extremely important for us to know, where the law stands, what are our rights, what are our responsibilities, so that we can actually educate the kids. Because these teenagers, every school going kid out there is on some social media platform. And, with their zest for life, they're always pushing their boundaries, they're always willing to take risks. And sometimes they end up putting themselves in very vulnerable situations where they're exposing themselves to harassment, they're exposing themselves to bullying. So, we as parents also have a responsibility towards them to make them aware of what their rights are, what their own responsibilities are, so that they can use this platform in a much positive way. Because let's face it, internet technology, social media, it is a very positive platform for all of us out there, because it also helps the kids to kind of express themselves in the most truthful way possible. It's great to be in touch. It helps them be stay connected, stay in touch. It's also great for collaborative and collective learning, as we all saw. Because during the pandemic, if not for technology, if not for internet, if not for social media, we would have been lost. So it's extremely important for us to know what the Indian law is, where it stands, what the rights are. And we had just the right person for us with us today, Suhasini Rao, who is not only a renowned lawyer, she is a very passionate speaker on the issue of child protection, and she is with us today in the studio. And she will be telling us about where the Indian law stands, what the laws are, what the responsibilities are, so that we are aware of them. Before I bring her into the studio and we continue with our conversation, please like, share, and subscribe my channel, just underscore Sonal, on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, so that I can keep bringing these relevant topics to all of you, and we can grow this community together. So let's bring in Suhasini with us. Please feel free to ask questions. As always, I'm going to get to them at the end of the show. So let's continue with the conversation. Hi,
Hey, Sonal.
Suhasini. So good to have you back.
Likewise, it's good to see you. I hope you have been well, and so has the community. All your viewers who've been joining you for all your sessions.
Yes, so far so good. Keeping our fingers crossed.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
absolutely.
yeah, very very uncertain times actually. So we can, like I've always said in all my shows, that there's so many people still actually struggling with this COVID-19 situation. So lots of positivity, lots of prayers, and lots of good wishes to all of those families who are caught up in this. And I'm pretty sure they will be out of it soon, and in a stronger way. Because I feel, Suhasini, after this whole pandemic, we will have a new way of looking at things. We will probably
Hopefully.
have a new way of looking at life itself.
Yeah.
So let me introduce you to the audience, and then we can,
Sure.
I have, as usual, a lot of questions. So
Okay.
Suhasini is a qualified lawyer with a master's degree in international criminal law, with diverse experience across jurisdiction in matters of ethical corporate governance, equal employment opportunity mechanism, whistleblower protection, anti-bribery, anti-corruption, sexual offences, data privacy, and similar compliance and regulatory matters. Extensive experience in managing and leading teams of diverse competencies, qualifications, and demographics, public and private sector organizations. She is also a trusted advisor to general counsel, CEOs, member of boards across industries for management, legal compliance, and risk matters. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Suhasini, let's just start with the basic. What is the legal definition of cybercrime? So what constitutes a cybercrime in terms of, if we relate that to our kids? And also, when we say kids, what is the age group that we're talking about?
Okay, so I think just to link it to our previous conversation, although it was a couple of months ago, in India, by law, anybody who has not completed 18 years of age is considered as a minor. Okay, for most purposes, for most intents and purposes. So anybody below the age of 18 is usually given an enhanced level of protection by the law because they're considered to be minors and children. And anybody above the age of 18 is automatically an adult by law, right? So that's a, I mean, yeah, there are exceptions, marriage and all of that, but we are not getting into that. Presumably, right now, let's just remember 18 is a sort of cutoff limit here. So that's one. The other part of it is, what is cybercrime? In the simplest terms that I can explain, a cybercrime is any crime, illegal activity, unlawful activity that occurs either through the use of computers and the internet, where the target is the internet or somebody's online identity, or it is used as a tool to cause that crime to somebody else offline. So, in both instances, it can be considered as cybercrime. Yeah, very simply, I'll give you an illustration. If I create a fake profile and I use that profile to leave offensive or abusive content on another human being's profile on a social media site, is that a cybercrime? Yes, because I am committing offensive behavior online, right? So there is a cyber element to it. That's one. The other is, let us say, through internet powered technology, or nowadays people have smart devices and things like that. Let us say that I use, I illegally operate somebody's camera or laptop camera to record them or any such thing. Then the action is not happening online, but effectively their behavior offline is being captured illegally. That is also cybercrime. So there are many, many different ways in which crime plays out with the help or by using the internet or computers. That is cybercrime.
Okay, okay. Now, a lot of school-going kids are actually, everybody is a part of social media now, and
Yeah.
sometimes they're not aware of the security concerns, and they end up being in very vulnerable situations where they expose themselves to either harassment or other issues. Several sexual predators are out there, so there could be many such situations that they can be into. So, what is like, what are their rights in terms of law, and what is their responsibility? And I'm talking specifically for the kids.
So this is a very interesting question that you've asked, because see, a lot of social media sites nowadays stipulate, when you are trying to log in to create an account, they ask you how old you are, right? Your date of birth or your age. So quite a few of them usually expect you to be 12 years and above or 14 years and above. So they're expecting not toddlers, they're expecting not adults but teenagers. That
Teenagers,
level. Of, yeah.
absolutely.
The challenge is, first of all, for parents, whether or not they have had this conversation with their children much earlier, and whether they have enabled or allowed their children to create these social media profiles and pages honestly. So the question is the parent or the guardian or whoever the caretaker figure is aware that that child is online or not? That's the first big question to answer, because we all know that in situations where there's a disciplinary issue, or there's more strictness or conservatism, the family line might be, you will not have an account, you will not be on social media and all of that. But that doesn't stop them, they will still go out there, and so they actually face a higher level of risk, because then all that activity is happening, underground, so to speak, without the knowledge or the awareness of the parent or the caretaker. So there is already that level of vulnerability. One. The other issue is, once they are online, what kind of checks and balances have been activated online? So nowadays, whether it's your phone, whether it's a tablet, whether it's your laptop, whatever system, you have innumerable software which allows you to monitor the screen time, monitor the time spent on the app, monitor the kind of activity that is being undertaken, right? And a lot of parents are neither aware of it, or even if they are, they don't really take it seriously. They don't activate those checks and balances. So the child will be online for hours on end, unsupervised. That is where the challenge begins. So instead of having a blanket statement saying that being on social media is bad or being online is bad, I think it is a greater level of care that needs to be executed or undertaken by parents and caretakers, teachers, to help the child understand and educate them about what it is that they are talking. So I mean, all your social media sites have groups for children. They have parent-children groups. Like mothers, fathers, parents, like online PTAs kind of a thing. They also have kids can have their own, sort of Zoom play dates kind of a thing. So it's good. Children need to use technology. They need to be comfortable with it. But how they build a positive interaction with that technology itself and with other people using that technology is entirely up to the adults in their life.
That's true. One of the things that you pointed out, which is extremely important, is it's good to give kids that level of comfort so that they're honest with you as to what they're doing. Because like you said, if the pressure is so much that they can't even have a profile, then well, the profile is going to exist. It's just the parents are not going to know about that. So I think that's a very valid point. And in terms of law, like this is in terms of the parental responsibility, right? What is it that they should know in terms of the law being protecting them or what their rights are?
So so here the law sort of bifurcates into two levels, right? One is where the child is a victim, and when I say the child is a victim, I mean where uh, pornographic content that depicts a person below the age of 18 or one without their consent or any such thing is being shared or shown. That is an out and out illegal activity, crime, and all of that. We are aware of that. That is one. The other is where when we talk about cyberbullying, and when later in this conversation we will talk about bullying and its various shades and forms. When there is bullying happening, but the victim is also under the age of 18. That's the other part of it. So that may not necessarily have a pornographic or a criminal angle in that sense that is so overt. It might have it might be text messages, it might be group messages, it might be memes, jokes, all of that, right? So that's the other. So one is where the child is the victim. There is enhanced protection in the sense, the law provides for all sorts of things once it is flagged as a criminal offense. It provides for counseling, it provides for therapy, it provides for medical assistance, all of that. Yeah. But the other side is equally important to understand. What if it is a underage person who is committing such behavior, right? Because nowadays almost everybody has a camera enabled phone, everybody has access to camera enabled laptops, right? So we get these kind of stories all the time. Yeah, वीडियो बना लिया, सर्कुलेट कर दिया, फोटोज ले ली, टेक्स्ट मैसेजेस के स्क्रीनशॉट्स भेज दिए, stuff like that. When the person doing that is below the age of 18, then the law treats it differently because it is seen as juvenile delinquency. It is not seen as an adult committing the crime, right? So if it is an adult committing the crime, the law will play out its course as any other criminal law charge. But when it is somebody below the age of 18 who's done this, then there is a different entire, what we spoke about in the last session, if you remember our conversation about POXO, Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act. That's the one that will sort of also be activated. The Juvenile Justice Act will be activated, and all of those. I think the most important thing for parents to understand over here is, again, I keep coming back to parents because ultimately the buck does stop with parents and
Yes.
parental care, right? Um, is one, what is their own online behavior like? And this is something that none of us pay attention to. We open up a browser and we type in whatever we want to, and you're off looking at whatever it is that you want to look at. Very rarely do we realize that our children are watching and our children are paying attention. And how we text. So something as simple as, I'm sure everybody uses, WhatsApp or any other messenger service, right? Think about it. How you write and speak on those is very different from how you actually speak, like the words that you actually use. These are things that children pick up on. So, very rarely, I mean, there are enough arguments that can and will be made if a matter comes to the courts, whereby it is possible to say that a child is only behaving the way it watched its parents behave. So, if a child has access to its parents' phones and he sees or she sees, parents sharing memes and, sort of slightly unsavory or off color matter, it's very difficult to hold the child responsible because that is where the absorption is happening.
Hmm.
Remember, the internet never forgets. So if you have the internet at home and you use Google, trust me, Google remembers every
Yes.
search that you ever
Very careful.
undertook. Yeah.
It's
And
scary.
then exactly. And if your child is using Google and they log in and you haven't bothered to log out of your account and they're just using an extension of your account, then guess what Google is going to put up as prompts when they start to type?
Right. Very important, actually.
Yeah.
So the content that we are browsing, the content that we are writing is going to reflect on what the kids do with the internet to a certain
Yes,
extent.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, this is one thing that I don't know how far schools have internalized it, because as far as I know, I haven't really been very impressed with the kind of attention to online security that our educational systems provide. I mean, they've all said, let's go online, let's have digital classes, blah, blah, blah. But I don't really see schools having conversations with different age groups of children saying, listen, this is what an incognito mode means. This is what it means if it asks you permission for cookies. This is what it means if it's asking you permission for accessing your, sign in. This needs to be explained because you're signing away your information at every step.
Absolutely. There's so so talking about bullying actually, I was reading a recent date survey, international
Mhm.
survey done by Microsoft, that actually says that 53% of the Indian kids are subjected to cyberbullying. So what can be done about that?
See, so fundamentally, ever since, and this is something that even Mr. Tim Berners-Lee has spoken about. He said, when I created the internet, I didn't really expect it to be used for so much
True.
negativity. Yeah.
Even I
And
never fathomed.
exactly. So with cyberbullying, I think the first step to understand is that cyberbullying is a manifestation of bullying. It is not a different crime or a different behavior pattern. It is simply happening in a different forum. That is all. It is effectively bullying. It is in no way less or more. In fact, sorry, it is in no way less. It is definitely more in some cases, but that's one. Yeah. Two, uh, cyberbullying can be far more difficult and dangerous simply because the level of anonymity that the internet provides does, I mean, it's difficult in offline modes, right? Like if there's a big kid who goes up to a smaller kid in school during break every day and sort of just shoves him around, or grabs her lunch every day, everyone can see. They may not speak up about it, but they can see. But if you have some anonymous email sending you, you're too fat, or you look weird in glasses or something every single day, it's so much more difficult to find out and trace and all of that. So there's an enhanced level of danger over there. um, what can be done about cyberbullying? Well, first of all, um, it's I'm not saying it never happens, it does, but it's rare for cyberbullying to happen in isolation. Usually it will start off with offline behavior changes, and especially in children. You will I mean, this year has been exceptional because children aren't going to school, but before this year kids would go to school, right? And cyberbullying would usually be a manifestation of bullying behavior that was anyways happening offline during school hours in school. So during school hours, someone might, whatever, like I said, shove you in the hallway, tear a page of your notebook, or bully you on the playground and something. And then after school they might send you text messages on the group chat, or they might post funny pictures or jokes about you online. So it would be a continuation of it. um, so what I'm trying to say is that look out for changes in behavior offline also, not just online. Yeah, when your child suddenly starts talking too little about somebody that they used to talk very frequently about, or they start avoiding a particular activity which they would be very interested in previously, or they have any of the other what are known as classic symptoms of withdrawal, which is, mama, I don't want to go anywhere, I just want to sleep, or they're just, very bright bubbly child is quiet. The opposite is also equally true, huh? Some children are naturally quiet and introverted, but they suddenly become very aggressive, very loud, very, not clingy, but constantly needing physical touch with the mother or the father, or like a authority figure. All of these could be behavior changes to look out for.
So basically, cyberbullying is just an extension of the bullying behavior that presents itself in a child, even in a day to day life. I think I think the internet, or it just gives them a level of anonymity for them to
Anonymity.
more, yeah, to be more, I think just gives them a little bit more kick, I would say, because I mean, the chances of you knowing who the person is kind of gets compromised here.
Let me clarify that a little bit. Cyberbullying isn't just an extension of bullying. Most cyberbullying cases tend to be an online manifestation of bullying that is anyways happening offline. But there is also only purely cyberbullying, especially in adult interactions. Like, I mean, on online and news, you'll see this very often: trollish behavior. Especially, a lot of celebrities end up flagging accounts on social media sites, saying that they post offensive or abusive tweets or comments and stuff like that. Similar stuff can also happen to children. Okay, that is purely cyberbullying. But I'm saying that look at the lifestyle for celebrities and adults. They have far more of a public image, so the chances of it being completely anonymous are much greater. Whereas for children, even celebrities children are usually given that level of, we tend to not have our children out in public scrutiny very often, right? So the chances of it being purely cyber are lower. Statistically, cyberbullying in minors tends to be an online manifestation of offline behavior as well.
Like,
That's the difference. Yeah.
yeah.
But just before we move to the next point, one thing I definitely want to make known over here: as parents, we are very proud of our children. We are very, we are our biggest champions of our kids and their achievements, which is fantastic. Always do that. But please be very mindful of the pictures and the content and the information that you take and post of your child online.
Yeah.
Unless you have a very, very secured
Yeah.
account where only friends can see and you've disabled downloads and all of that, please be mindful of taking pictures, tagging your children, putting out their names of their schools, their class, their best friends, and all, because that is where information is made public. Yeah. So it's important to be like mindful of that. Safety starts with parents.
Yeah. And I think it's extremely important, all the more now, to know the safety measures
Yeah.
for these platforms. Because a lot of
Yeah.
times we don't go into the nitty gritties to check the settings, to, to toggle that button. And
Yeah.
so even just by doing that, I think we may be able to, secure it to a certain extent. Although I think internet is so vast that even if we end up doing those security measures, I don't know how safe it really is. So I think the best thing is actually to be very careful about putting
Yeah.
anything out there.
It's
To then the same, like what you were saying, that when any kid indulges in a behavior of bullying or harassment, it also somewhere reflects on their upbringing, or the value system, or the lack of it for that matter. So what do you think is the responsibility of a parent towards upbringing, and making sure that it does, because everything kind of starts from home,
yeah.
so we have a bigger
So
responsibility.
see, the one thing is, nobody ever wants to hear a negative word about their own child. Nobody
Yeah,
does, ever,
very natural.
for whatever reason. It's natural. It's fine. It's acceptable. But I think for parents, it's like I said, it's a 1 to 3 step. Step number one: don't shut down the conversation. If another child, or if the parent of another child is coming to you to have a conversation, listen. You don't necessarily have to agree, but you have to listen. It is basic. It is a basic requirement that you understand what the problem is. It may very well not be a situation of bullying. It may very well just be children having a fight in the schoolyard, which they can eventually sort out themselves also, and that's a fantastic way of handling it. But don't shut it down. Don't say that आप ऐसे कैसे कह सकते हो. People speak up only when they feel there is a problem, right? People don't usually just come and speak up about these kind of things because they're very difficult to speak up about. That's one. Secondly, always encourage honesty. See, there should be and there must be consequences for actions. If a child has been told not to do something or to do something, and they do it or not do it, then there must be consequences that follows. Yeah. But it has to be a very rational, sensible way of dealing with it. It can't be disproportionate. So if somebody comes up and says, your child shoved my child in the schoolyard, you can't turn around and tell your child you will not go to school. That is a disproportionate response to it. Yeah, you have to have that conversation, because otherwise the children are not going to have faith. They're going to live in fear, and fear only breeds further bullying. Bullying
Absolutely.
comes from a place of deep insecurity where the need to assert some sort of power and control becomes overwhelming because the person feels deeply powerless and out of control in other aspects of their life. This is a known sort of behavior pattern. And I'm talking not just bullying for children, but bullying as a concept, even amongst adults. Yeah. So the whole point is to try and give that child that level of honesty and safe space, saying, talk to me, tell me what's going on, why is this behavior happening, where is it coming from. Yeah. You might never know, there might be a history to it, there might be provocation. If there is, okay. If there isn't, then clearly it is a another issue that's playing out over here. And then the third point is, having faith in whatever solution system you figure out, whether there are consequences of misconduct in school. Sometimes the teacher has seen it, she's put out or he has put out some punishment or disciplinary action that needs to be met. Or if you as a parent have decided, okay, there will be no TV for a week, or no whatever, you must help out in the house a little more errands or something, or whatever else it is, follow through with it, because you need to rebuild that cycle of trust and honesty. It can't be that it's been done only for a day or two and then ha jane do, because then the child again believes that I can still get away with it. Whatever the course of action is, follow through with it and do it with kindness and empathy. See, because when especially with children, when somebody points out an error, it is but natural and understandable that we take it very personally. We see it as a failure of our own parenting.
Yeah.
We see
We
that,
get defensive. Yeah. We get very
exactly.
defensive.
And all of these are very, very natural, understandable, and frankly, good reactions to have. It means that you are invested in the child, you're invested in that relationship, you want the best. But it's time to go beyond that. Sometimes people do what they do, and it is completely beyond our control. So if a child has acted out in a certain manner, which is negative, you figured it out, you've worked with the teacher, you've worked with the other parent, you've put up a corrective pattern, and the child is showing improvement, know that it is not a lack of failure of your parenting. It
Parenting.
is just human behavior. Yeah, it's okay to have mistakes, it's okay to make mistakes. Now of course the quantum and the gravity and the intensity of the mistake makes a big difference, but on the whole, growing up is about making mistakes and learning.
And parenting too.
And parenting too, absolutely. Yeah.
So, actually, so talking about, so if somebody finds themselves in a situation where they are being harassed, or any situation related to cybercrime, what are the steps they need to follow then onwards in terms of law?
Hmm.
Because somewhere I think there is a huge gray area there also, whether it's parents, or whether a child, an adult
Yeah.
child is concerned, right? So what can be done? What should be the first step as soon as you find yourself in a compromised situation, or your kid in a compromised situation?
So first things first is try and put distance between the person and that social media or that gadget or whatever else it is, at least immediately, because that is going to be an immediate and constant source of trauma. And the more trauma they feel, the more they're going to be the more it's going to be difficult to deal with the situation with a calm and collected rational thought process. Yeah, so minimize emotion over there, that's one. Second point, um, take screenshots, take save all the conversations, save the try and save the name, the email IDs, whatever is the source of that information or content, because you need evidence. You need to be able to show the police where it's coming from. So going up and saying हमने तो delete कर दिया, I'm sorry, really doesn't help, because trying to get backlogs and a backup reports on data files from service providers is a very long convoluted system. It'll take forever to get a order and then get them to comply and send you all of that. So it's much better for you to just quickly take screenshots, quickly take freeze frames, download emails, and put them all in a folder which you have like as evidence. Thirdly, if you already know who the person is, like if there is an offline aspect to it as well, uh, stop communication for a little while. Why? Because it could be that they are trying to get you to do something or abstain from doing off something offline via the internet, right? So just try and put that physical distance and take it to the police, because the cybercrime units are trying to do their best and they are very, very effective when you give them the information. If you withhold information or if you delete information, you're making their job that much more difficult, because they will spend the first 48 hours just trying to get that information. If you make it easier to and just go up and say, hey, listen, this is what I've gotten, or this is, like you'll see this a lot on some of the social media sites like Twitter and Facebook. A lot of celebrities who unfortunately are on the receiving end of very offensive and abusive content
All the
immediately
close.
take screenshots and they post it and they tag it with the whichever relevant police or law enforcement department it is, and say, this is what I've received, please take action, look at it. I'm not commenting on the merits and demerits of that. All I'm saying is that because they've provided that information right away, people are able to look at it, the law enforcement is able to look at it and start a move on it. So have that faith, you know, get going quickly enough. If you feel that your accounts have been hacked, for instance, if you feel that somebody else has accessed your banking and all, of course, which is highly confidential, but primarily, let's say, your email IDs, your social media IDs, immediately notify the service provider and change your password, or log out of that device. If you've seen it on your mobile or your tablet, log out of it and don't use it for the next 24 hours. Use another computer, use another mobile phone, use another laptop. So, so that whoever's tracking the IP also doesn't have anything more to go on because you've broken that link right away. So these are basic safety and sort of security tips that you should get into good. People also, laptop pay, who bothers? Everybody stays signed into their email accounts and Facebook account because nobody remembers
Right.
passwords.
Yeah.
Well, and then of course nowadays you even have service providers who give you prompts, who keep you permanently signed in. That's a challenge as well, because if your master account is hacked, then access to all your passwords is available, right? So maybe it's okay to have like a whiteboard in the house, or like in your room or in your cupboard, where you just put up a little post-it and you've put in the passwords which you can use every day. But don't try and leave yourself signed in everywhere. Don't try and leave yourself accessing the same thing across various gadgets. It just brings in a little bit, it's a little difficult to do. I agree, especially this year with very little other material to capture your attention at the moment. But a
Every
little bit of, exactly, everything is online, but a little bit of attention and a little bit of discipline goes a long way in staying safe.
True. The first thing that you mentioned, Suhasini, is to contact the police station. So, does it work exactly the same way? So, the first point of contact is your local for your reference is your local police station, even for the cyber crimes.
Absolutely. In fact, almost all the police, state police now are online. You can just look up their websites, and on their websites, there's usually a link says file a FIR, file an FIR, file a charge sheet, file a complaint, and all of that. You can, in fact, even do it online, because especially during lockdown, because people weren't allowed to move out and all. Even remote police stations which didn't have that great connectivity have put in the effort. I mean, I know that a lot of states have put in a lot of infrastructure to make sure that they're able to take information online and act on it. So it's perfectly possible to, lodge a zero FIR online or to lodge a complaint online. And you even get acknowledgement slips. Like, there's a number generated and you get an acknowledgement saying that we've received your complaint and we're starting action on it and stuff. So definitely consider doing that.
Okay. So, talking about that, for some reason, and for actually for obvious reasons, I would say, there is a lack of trust
Yeah.
in people as far as the law enforcement is concerned, as far as the implementation is concerned, because somewhere that confidence is lacking, that even if you file an FER, that it would actually go somewhere. How and there is a reason for that. There is a good enough reason for that. How do you generate that trust and confidence back?
Um, I mean, it's an excellent question, and systemic reform is something that is beyond your and my capability here. But um, having worked with those arms of the law, both in India and abroad, I'll tell you this. Um, we are all human, okay? Even the policeman sitting there and looking at these complaints is human. And he or she is doing the best that they can most of the time. 12, 14, 16 hour jobs, work days where they don't get to go home and all of that. So, yes, there might be delays. I'm not saying there aren't, there will be. But there are enough success stories that I can tell you, and I'm sure that are available online in popular news and media, where things do get resolved. It takes time, but they do get resolved. They do follow up, they do the investigation, they find out, they trace. Like I said, if you look at the success stories, Sonal, the 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 running theme everywhere is where the person making the complaint or the person cooperate, I mean, the person, the victim or whoever else it is who reached out, made sure that they gave all information, they cooperated, and they provided whatever they could so that the police and the law enforcement weren't running around just getting basic information.
The information.
And this is not just for cybercrime or anything. It's a very simple rule. Three people in your life you should never lie to: your doctor, your lawyer, and the police. Never lie to them. Simple. Simply because your doctor has to keep you alive, your lawyer has to make sure that you have access to your rights, and the police because it is their job to protect you. The more you withhold information or lie to them, the more difficult you make their job. The more difficult their job, the lesser success you're going to get. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. So, like you said, I think we'll have to start looking at the success stories out there, because most of the time, what media focuses on is the negative aspect of the law enforcement and the police. And I think that's where the whole, shaking of the confidence happens, because I mean, in India, it's talking about the law. I mean, I think unless and until it's absolutely required, people actually would like to stay away from interacting with the police. But I'm pretty sure what you're saying is largely true. And I guess somewhere also I feel if the media starts focusing on some of the good aspects of living in general,
Hmm.
that goes for every aspect of our life. Somewhere I feel there is so much there's so much focus on everything negative around us that we don't get to access the good that is also happening around our lives, and which is also raising that lack of confidence in us.
So there's one very interesting thing that I saw a couple of months ago. There's a show on one of these online streaming platforms, and it's about four ladies and their friendship and their journey in India. And all of them have different sort of life stories. One is married, one is not married, one has a child, one doesn't. So all of that, all combination. One interesting story that they showed is how the one of the younger ones who's about to be married is blackmailed online by her prospective father-in-law based on some photographs or something like that of hers. And while
Oh,
it is
yeah.
yeah, and while it is blackmail is the problem here, blackmail and the threats that she receives are the actual crime here. It is unfortunately she who gets victim shamed and victim blamed, right? Because of the nature of the photographs. And that's the reason why we tend to have that, that hesitancy, because we feel that the internet gives us that anonymity, we become invincible. We put out information about ourselves which we otherwise would not, whether it is visual information, whether it is textual information, whether it's the conversations we had, all of that. And then we feel ashamed or embarrassed of it. So, my thumb rule for everybody is remind yourself that the internet is nothing but a medium. It is still you. You are still the same person. You are still the same person, and on the other side of the screen is still another same human being. So, if you would not say or do or behave in a certain manner in real life, don't do it online. It is as simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely true, actually.
Yeah,
Somewhere,
because
uh,
yeah.
please,
No,
please.
because in real life, our memories fade, we forget, but the internet never forgets.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, a lot of times I feel like internet or technology, or the social media platform also gives you an uninhibited platform where, in a very positive way, you can express yourself in the most genuine way possible.
Mhm.
And sometimes that is taken, to a different level altogether. But you're right. I mean, on one hand, we can express ourselves in a very genuine way, while keeping in mind that that you behave in the way that you would with other person in person. I think that is the key, and not do something which you wouldn't do in person. So, and it still lets you actually use it in the most positive way possible, because otherwise we wouldn't have survived the pandemic if not up to the
Absolutely.
internet.
No, it's phenomenal. This technology is absolute. It blows my mind every time, right? Like all you need is a piece of plastic and put it on another piece of plastic, and somehow you have paid for something or you have enabled something, right? It's phenomenal.
It's
But
yeah,
with that level of power, you can imagine the amount of damage it can do if it's misused. So I think the important part, like I said, is again to remind yourself that ultimately this is simply a tool. It is not the end goal.
yeah,
It's
right,
simply a medium. It's not real life. It's not an object of its own.
yeah. I think the problem is the instant gratification that it gives, and that's where I
Yeah.
think a lot of people, a lot of teenagers actually lose it, because then they start attaching their whole self, or their whole self confidence from the gratification or from the number of likes that they are getting, and that's where I think it gets really blurry, and
Yeah,
it gets yeah.
it gets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think I'm pretty much done with everything that I have on my plate. Unless if there is something that you would like to address, Suhasini, which I have not asked you, please go ahead. I don't see any questions from the audience today.
Okay.
So
I think before we wrap up, one last point I'd like to make, and for everyone to remember, is that please don't, think that the internet is a bad thing or that it's a good thing. It is a tool. It is as good or as bad as you use it. Yeah. And it is equally dangerous or equally beneficial to men, women, boys, girls, and any other gender. Some are particularly vulnerable, but that is because the internet also enhances behaviors that we see offline. Okay. But try not to think of the technology as a separate entity of its own. The technology doesn't have its own mind. If you open up your social media profile and you see bad stuff on it, it's not the social media that's doing it. It's people who are using it in a negative way. So it's important to remember that. And like everything else, moderation is the word. It's the
yeah,
key. Use it to the best possible ability that you have, but don't replace it for genuine human interaction.
yeah, absolutely. On that note, thank you so much, Suhasini, for being with me again. It's again, everything that comes out of, like, you have so much information, so much knowledge on every
I keep
aspect.
reading, I keep learning, Sona. I'll be very honest. I have very little. I just, whatever I have, I'm happy to share. That's all.
Yeah, so it was a great informative session as the last time, and I'm pretty sure the audience, who are watching or who will be watching, will take something out of this talk again, because I think it'll definitely help our kids, sail through those challenging times that we are all into, because everything is online now, and we have to use technology. All the more reason for us to be cautious of the technology, because for the coming time, I think we'll be using it more and more. But hopefully, we'll be off the pandemic soon, and we'll start the new year with a little bit of normalcy out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Stay safe and thank you so much for having me.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. This is just Sonal signing off. See you Sunday on your online cafe. Bye.
Bye bye.